You were born condemned. It was not a miracle, it was a verdict. From the first cry, an invisible stopwatch began working against you. It does not measure progress, it measures loss.
On every birthday, the whole world gathers to celebrate the wear and tear and calls it joy. The cake, the candles, the photos, it is all a disguise. The laughter is a curtain over the sound of the clock hands, which keep advancing, not towards something, but away from everything. No one likes to think about it, but time is not passing. It is running out. Every congratulation is, in reality, an anticipated epitaph. A reminder that the body is 1 year closer to ruin. That friends are drifting further away on the line of life. That memories are dissolving in the back of the brain like wet paper. You smile, you think, you blow out the candles. But something inside you, a part that matured too late, perceives the absurdity. Everything celebrated today will be forgotten in a few days. And so will you. Did the Greeks know it? For them, Cronos was not time, he was the devourer. The god who ate his own children to prevent the future from replacing him. And deep down, that is what time does to us. It swallows us little by little, pretending to allow us to live. Culture tries to transform this process into a spectacle. Balloons, congratulations, posts, gifts, but it is just the varnish of decomposition. You see old photos, realize how much your face has changed, how many people have disappeared, and you understand, too late, that time was never a patient friend. It was always nature's most polite predator. So, when you stopped celebrating your own birthday, it was not sadness, it was lucidity. It was the moment when laughter lost its meaning. Happy birthday became noise, and the day of your birth began to sound like what it really is. The annual reminder that you are dying in slow motion, learning to call that life. Time does not advance, it rots. That is the first truth that destroys any idea of progress. The clock does not accompany you. It subtracts from you. In every second, it is not the world that moves. It is you who unravels a little more. The notion that time passes is an optimistic invention, a semantic comfort. Heidegger wrote that the human being is the only animal condemned to anticipate its own death. We do not live time, we sense it coming. We carry the constant dread of a loss that already began the instant we were born. When someone says, "Time flies," they are trying to lighten the massacre. But time does not fly. It slips away, and what slips away never returns. Nietzsche said that nothing belongs to time. Everything is swallowed by it. What we call memory is just the resistance of what has not yet been completely devoured. Look at how we are educated in illusion. We count the days, celebrate the turns of the calendar, believe that hours build something, but time does not build. It destroys slowly and methodically. Everything that seems to mature is actually nearing the point of decomposition. Think about the seasons. We call summer the peak and autumn the decline, as if they were linear stages. But the peak already contains the beginning of the ruin. The flower blooms only to rot in slow motion. Time is that invisible cycle of dissolution that language tries to disguise with soft words. There is a cruel detail in this. Time has no direction. We are the ones who project one. The universe does not know what tomorrow is. Time has no plan, no goal. It is not a path. It is a continuous erosion. And within that erosion, the human being tries to erect meaning. They build routines, traditions, birthdays, but all celebration is a thin wall against a tide that never ceases. Schopenhauer saw time as the most polite executioner of existence. It does not shout, it does not bleed, it does not rush, it only consumes with constancy. And that constancy is what drives one mad, because time does not present itself as an enemy. It presents itself as normality, and that is what makes it impossible to conquer. Language is an accomplice to this farce. We say, time heals, as if time had some moral function. But time does not heal. It erases. And erasing is not healing, it is forgetting. Suffering does not cease because we mature. It ceases because the brain gets tired of remembering. Time is not a medicine. It is an anesthetic that kills slowly. So, when you realize that time does not pass, but runs out, something inside you changes forever. You stop counting the days and start feeling yourself sink. Every morning leaves a metallic taste of loss. Every birthday is less of a milestone, more a confirmation that the stock is diminishing. Time is the only resource that does not accumulate. No matter how much you save it, it dissolves on contact. To breathe is all ready to spend. Existence is a leak without repair. And yet, people smile while saying, "One more year of life," as if they were gaining something, when in reality, they lost what they can never touch again. Time does not pass. It dries up, and everything that exists, including you, is just the residue of what has already been drained. Celebrations are distractions. They are the human art of pretending that time is a host and not a thief. The party exists to cover up what silence would reveal. Every time someone blows out the candles, what goes out is not the flame. It is the instant. The gesture of celebrating is the most sophisticated way of denying death. The modern man does not erect temples. He erects events. He does not contemplate. He records. He transformed ritual into entertainment and wonder into a post. Celebrating ceased to be a symbol. It became collective anesthesia. Civilization learned to confuse euphoria with presence, as if noise could replace meaning. The loud music, the laughter, the raised glasses, it all sounds like an affirmation of life, but it vibrates as a defense. The sound exists to prevent the clock from being heard. Heidegger said that living authentically is living on the brink of death, but celebrations push man to the center of distraction, far from the edge. The party is the opposite of lucidity. It is not born of life, it is born of the fear of it. Observe how people treat time. They turn it into an agenda, a list, a goal. Also, they do not realize it is irreparable. Pascal called it divertissement, the escape mechanism with which man tries not to face the silence of infinite spaces. Distraction is not a vice. It is a survival strategy against the dread of existing. But the more man is distracted, the less he lives. The party is a way of dying in a group, laughing. The collective smile disguises individual decomposition. And happy birthday sounds like a prayer, words repeated until they lose their meaning. Sioran wrote that lucidity is the wound closest to the Sunday. And perhaps that is what celebrations try to avoid, the burn of clarity, because one who understands time cannot celebrate its expense. One who sees the hourglass turned upside down knows that every grain is not a conquest. It is an absence. They say that celebrating is gratitude. But gratitude for what exactly? For an older body? For memories that are already fading? For people who will not return? Parties try to freeze the dying instant, like someone photographing smoke. The human being commemorates his own exhaustion with champagne and laughter, but the truth is simpler and less festive. Time wants no witnesses, and celebrations are just its curtain. When the cake is finished and silence returns, what remains is the same void, only closer. The celebration is not a pause in the erosion, it is its disguise. And the refusal to celebrate is not melancholy. It is intelligence. It is the recognition that life needs no music to continue ending. We seek to be seen, but we cannot stand being truly observed. We want connection, but we fear being genuinely touched. The digital age has produced an unprecedented contradiction, the will for presence without vulnerability. And it is in that field of noise and performance that the cruelest silence is born, the one that is not absence, but rejection. You stopped posting on your birthday. It was not out of neglect or laziness. It was because something there, in the act of announcing one more year, began to sound offensive. As if participating in the virtual ritual making space for emojis, generic phrases, automatic congratulations, was collaborating with a lie. because you understood that this flood of messages said nothing about you. It was just a reflection of the algorithm, a conditioned reaction, without weight, without time, without truth. Happy birthday became a reflection of convenience, an obligatory noise without substance. Byung-Chul Han defines this logic as the society of transparency, a world where everything must be shown, but nothing is truly seen. Exposure has become a moral imperative. It is not about sharing, it is about remaining verifiable. Being outside of this is no longer freedom, it is almost an existential crime. In practice, what we see is an unbearable paradox. If you post, you are being fake. If you do not post, you disappear. And disappearance in digital culture is confused with personal breakdown. People do not want to know if you are okay. They want to know if you are active. Vitality has come to be measured by visible presence, and the birthday has become a public checkpoint of functioning. This logic even perverts silence. Because when you do not post, people do not worry. They feel the rupture of the cycle, not your real absence. It is the routine of the gesture that matters, not the being behind it. Schopenhauer wrote that solitude is the destiny of all extraordinary souls. But today, even solitude needs a caption. It is not enough to be alone. The other needs to know that you chose the silence. Otherwise, it has no social value. This emptying of the gesture made silence more brutal than noise. You leave the virtual party, and no one comes looking for you. You are silent, and the world continues posting as if you never existed. The network transforms everything into flow, and flow does not tolerate absence, it only consumes. The birthday, in this scenario, is no longer about time or memory. It is about brand positioning. It is one more day of maintenance of the persona, not the existence. That is why not posting hurts the observer more than the one who is silent, because the silence denounces. It says, I do not need to participate. I do not believe in this. And this is the greatest scandal. It is not declared nihilism, but the discreet abandonment, the refusal to be verified. You become a flaw in the system, an absence impossible to swallow. The decision not to announce another year is not melancholy, it is coherence. It is accepting that there is nothing there that deserves to be celebrated, that the algorithms do not know what you lost or what you perceived, and that silence is the only place where some truth remains. What hurts is not failing to get what you wanted. It is realizing that there is nothing left to want. The absence of desire does not free, it annuls. You discover that you lost the taste before losing the things. And that is why the gifts began to sound offensive. They do not bring joy. They only remind you of what you no longer feel. The birthday gift, that relic of emotional childhood, survives as an echo. But what it symbolizes has lost value. Because you do not want an object. You do not want a tribute. You do not want to be remembered. You want time to stop counting. You want the pressure of being alive to cease for an instant. And no one knows how to wrap that. Schopenhauer said that desire is the source of all pain, because to want is to lack. And when it is conquered, the will is lost. The cycle is miserable. Want, suffer, achieve, tire, and start over. The only escape for him was the total emptying of desire. But in practice, that emptying does not arrive as liberation. It arrives as weariness. A psychic exhaustion so silent that not even the most genuine affection can break through. That is why you reject the gift. Not out of arrogance, but because it demands a reaction that you can no longer manufacture. Smiling, thanking, showing warmth, reinforcing the farce that there is still a spark there. There is not. You go through your birthday with the same neutrality with which you go through a Wednesday. The number changes, the calendar advances, and you no longer feel that anything has changed. Because the only thing that changes is your patience with all this. The gift tries to feign permanence, but time gives it the lie. Everything you were given has already broken, disappeared, or lost meaning. And so have you. Nietzsche, when speaking of the eternal return, proposed the most unbearable idea of all. living exactly the same life, in the same details, infinitely. For many, this sounds like poetry. But for one who feels the weight of time, it is torture. Reliving the void is not redemption. It is punishment. The gift then becomes ironic, because it affirms continuity where there is only wear and tear. It presumes hope where there is only suspension. You no longer want a memory. You do not want to mark the date. You do not even want to be in the count. It no longer makes sense to be celebrated. You are not celebrating. You are in suspension. And the only honest gift would be the end of all expectation. Peace is not in what will come. It is in the end of the demand that something still come. It is not sadness. It is the brutal maturity of one who perceived that to stop wanting may be the only relief left. You do not celebrate because you understood. That is the phrase no one dares to say, but that encapsulates all the previous points in a single sentence. The refusal to celebrate one's own birthday is not trauma, nor bitterness, nor oppose. It is understanding. Understanding that time is not a passing river. It is a blade that wears down. Understanding that the party is not joy. It is staging. That silence is not isolation. It is sincerity. Understanding is not born with a shock. It arrives as an erosion. Year after year, the date loses its shine, not for lack of affection, but for an excess of lucidity. You perceive that rituals do not withstand thought, and that the only way to respect time is to stop pretending that it belongs to us. That refusal is the new maturity. It is not disguised depression, but total lucidity. The lucidity that demands no emotional response or performative celebration. The lucidity of knowing that every happy birthday is, deep down, a collective relief. We are still alive. It was not you yet. It was not me yet. But that kind of consolation no longer interests you. You do not need proof that you are alive. You feel your own body aging, as if slowly sinking into a formless matter. You remember fewer things. You respond with more silence. You notice that memory itself has become a fragmented territory, where what matters has already dissolved. And then, everything that was once celebration becomes noise. The party becomes distraction. The gift becomes weight. The post becomes a mask. To stop celebrating is, in reality, the first gesture of sobriety. It is stopping the dance around the hourglass. It is facing that the hourglass is not symbolic. It is real. And it is always turned against you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." That is the most uncomfortable point for those who still believe in celebration as a social obligation. The man who stopped celebrating understood that time owes him nothing, and because of that, he stops demanding any meaning from time. This absence of a party is the last gesture of honesty. You stopped because all that remained of the celebration was an uncomfortable noise trying to protect you from what most needed to be said. Time is indifferent, and you, finally, stopped pretending otherwise. If you have come this far, it is because something in you has already understood what many avoid feeling. This channel is not made for everyone. It is made for those who have the courage to look at existence without disguises. Become a channel member. It is the most direct way to support this project and get even closer to what we are building here. You can also support with a super thanks. Every gesture helps keep this reflection alive. But know that just watching, commenting, sharing is already a lot. You are part of this. And that makes all the difference. To those who are already members, thank you. You are the silent heart of this lucid abyss. Thank you for being here once again. I look forward to our next encounter.